Today I got the chance to interview two business setup experts here in Dubai to answer all of your questions about moving here, setting up your company here, and everything else that you need to know. I've covered this at high level previously on this channel, and I'm getting so many questions. So rather than answering these questions myself, why not just ask Kevin and Cheyenne, who I work with to help you guys set up here in Dubai, to answer these questions themselves, because they are the experts and they know the ins and outs of this entire process. So during this interview, we first briefly talk about life in Dubai, why we moved to Dubai ourselves, why we like it so much, and why it just makes so much sense for a lot of entrepreneurs especially. And then we move on to a lot of specific questions that you guys specifically have been asking me about moving here. Should be a great interview. I cannot wait to share it with you. By the way, if you are currently looking to get set up here in Dubai and you need help with it, I've left a link down below for a free consultation with one of these guys where you can speak to them directly and ask all the specific questions that you have. And then after that, if you decide to use the services, they can help set everything up for you. So the link will be down below in the description. With that, let's get into the interview. So before we start, why don't you introduce yourselves?
Thank you for having me, Thomas. First of all, great content. My name is Cheyenne. I'm a partner consultant at GenZone alongside...
Yeah, so my name is Kevin. I'm also a partner consultant here at GenZone, where we help people relocate from whatever country to the UAE, specifically the best city in the world, Dubai. And of course, we can help you move to any other city, but 99% of people are moving to Dubai. If we're being honest, it's full of opportunities. Quality of life is really nice, as Thomas has said in a lot of his videos. And honestly, if you're a business person and you have an online business, even an in-person business, it just makes sense to move here. There's so many different reasons. Obviously, we're going to dive into it, taxes, safety, quality of life, but it just makes sense to move here. So thank you for having us, Thomas.
Absolutely. I think that's the best way to describe Dubai to a lot of people. It just makes a lot of practical sense, right? If you have, especially an online business, wherever you are, you're sitting in the UK paying all these taxes and everything. And it's just like, okay, I can go to Dubai, have 0% or 9% tax. We'll dive into all of that, while having the lifestyle, the weather, everything like that. So, I mean, that's why I personally moved here, and it's like basically a lot of my friends now are moving with me as they see like the benefits I get and everything.
Yeah.
So it's really awesome.
It's kind of like a snowball effect.
Exactly.
You move, and then when people see, you know, what's going on with you, they start moving on as well.
Exactly.
And if you're watching this, you're probably a business owner, and it's a business decision at the end of the day. You're going to save a lot of money moving here. You might think it's expensive to live in Dubai. It's not. It's actually cheaper than major cities like London, New York, Toronto, you name it. It's actually a lot cheaper. And you're saving so much money in taxes. So it's definitely the right move. And actually, a quick point that I was just thinking about the other day was, not only are you saving that money in taxes, but you're also getting the opportunity to take that money today, invest it today, and let it compound for, you know, whatever amount of times, 40 years. So if you invest 100K of tax savings, maybe more if you're making more, that money in 40, 50 years could be millions depending on your investment. So it's not just the tax savings, but it's also the growth on that. So it's really, really cool. Most people don't think about that, but I do.
It's a very good point. Like, people don't consider that what you're saving really in the long run is not just 40%, whatever the tax rate is.
Exactly.
Is that plus the compound interest that you're now gaining on all of those tax savings.
And some cities around the world, especially where we're from, you're from Finland, you know, we're from Canada, so the taxes can be up to 50%. In Canada, 54.6.
They can be
is
more.
The max. They can be more. So tell us about that.
I think in Finland now, I'll have to double check this, but I think the top rate can go up to 63%.
Wow. Wow. Imagine the money you can reinvest back into your business, into your life, in different facets of your life, and, you know, get more out of it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, look, and people will say like, okay, normal people are not paying that, and fine. Like, obviously, if you're making 40 grand a year, then it's not such a big deal, because you're not really paying those taxes yet anyway. But if you're a person who's either making a good amount of money, or you're an ambitious person who wants to get to the level where you're making the kind of money where you are paying these kind of tax rates, like, you almost have a duty to think about these kind of things, because like, it's not just that you're saving tax monies that you can then spend on your lifestyle and whatever. It's money that you're saving and compounding that you can like give your family, give yourself security, give your family security. And like, if you really want to give money away, like, there's way more efficient ways to do that than giving it to the government.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, and people think it's a trade-off because they think Dubai is so expensive, so your tax dollars are just going to your expenses in Dubai. But the reality is that there's a budget for everyone in Dubai, and you can spend as much as you want, you can spend as little as you want, and get a lot of value here in Dubai. So that's the biggest benefit.
Exactly. It's just that, like, I'm not against taxes in principle. Obviously, I understand governments need money, everything like that. But the biggest issue in the West right now is that, well, number one, that taxes are over-bloated. They're too high. And number two, where the tax money goes is used very, very inefficiently, right? So essentially, so I know someone who worked for like a government department in the UK, and the way it will essentially work is that the government departments will get a certain amount of money that they're allocated. And then at the end of the year, if they haven't used all of that money, they essentially need to find a way to just put that money into something. So let's say you're a hospital, like you have 100 grand, whatever left in your budget. If you don't spend that 100 grand, next year the government is going to allocate less money to that division, which literally incentivizes all of these divisions to spend as much money as possible, which leaves all of this money going to waste. Your tax dollars are going to waste because of like the way these systems are designed. Because not just what you pay, it's also like where that money is going or not going into.
Yeah, definitely. And you know, taxes is one thing too, but something that I realized after moving to Dubai is, honestly, even if there was the same amount of tax here in Dubai compared to in Canada, I would still move here. Like, truthfully, I would still move here because, like you mentioned, the weather all year round is gorgeous. Obviously, it gets hot in the summer. We're not going to lie. It does get hot in the summer, but for most of the year, you know what to expect every single day when you go outside. Plus, if you're in the business space, the networking opportunities are just so good. So it's like, it doesn't make any sense to stay in a country where your mindset is limited and your opportunities are limited too. So even if I didn't save any money in taxes here, which of course you do, I would still make so much more money by being around other people, other entrepreneurs who can help me get to where I want to be. So that's something really awesome. And something that you mentioned too about the taxes being wasted. If I want to go to the doctor in Canada, I'll either have to wait in an extremely long line at an emergency clinic or center or hospital, or I have to wait literally months or years to get an appointment with the doctor. So it's like, okay, sure, you have free healthcare, right? Free government services, but it's not free. Number one, you pay for it. Number two, you cannot access it. And if you can, it's not quick. And honestly, the quality of the healthcare in Canada, I used to think was good until I came to Dubai and saw what the quality is here. It's fantastic. In Canada, it's not that good. The doctors are incentivized to just take you, get rid of you as quickly as possible because they get paid from that. So for them, it's a numbers game. Let's get as many, not clients, but as many patients as possible in and out of the door. So what does that result in? It results in a poor service that's quick, rushed. You'll get to the doctor and he'll say something like, go drink water, when you know that you have something more serious, but they just want to get you out. Yeah.
But Thomas, I know you had some questions prepared about Dubai specifically and moving to Dubai, and that's exactly what we help with. So if you want to...
Yeah, so we were talking about, obviously, Dubai, the benefits, obviously, I mean, not for everyone, but for a lot of entrepreneurs, it just makes a lot of sense. But then people are probably going to be asking, like, okay, let's say I'm sitting in Canada, UK, and I want to move to Dubai. Yeah. What does that process look like specifically? How long does it take? What does it cost? Like, can you like give like a high-level overview of what that looks like?
Yeah, I mean, so honestly, it's a very straightforward process if you do it the right way. Now, how do you do it the right way? You either work with a group of people who know how to do it properly, and if you don't do that, then you can get, you know, some trouble, some issues. So it doesn't take long, again, if you do it the right way. And the right way doesn't take long, and it takes about 1 month in total. You can do it quicker, but roughly it should take around 1 week to register your business. After that, you should wait around 1 week for your entry permit to come into the country. Once you're in the country, it should be around 1 week to complete your residency process, so your medical appointment, biometrics appointment, which we set up for our clients VIP. And then after that, all you have to do is wait for your residency to be issued and then your Emirates ID to be delivered in the mail. So 1 week for your business setup, 1 week for your entry permit, and then when you fly into the country, 1 week for your entire residency process to the point where you get your actual Emirates ID. And then if you want, at that point, you can open up your bank accounts, which doesn't take long. I just opened a few bank accounts the other day. It took literally just a few hours. It's not always that quick, but it doesn't take long. So in total, I would say 4 weeks, including banking. So it's a very straightforward process. However, if you make mistakes, then it could be a lot longer. If you're considering moving to Dubai, maybe you've spoken to some people who have moved here, and they might have some experiences where it's like, oh, it took me months to move here. I had these delays, these delays. Those delays only happen if you don't choose the right group of people to work with. And I'm sure you've probably met so many people like that as well.
I have a lot of stories of like people who I know who have moved here, who they've used some agency or some guys to set up their business, who've done it completely wrong. And now they have to get another agency to essentially check the work of the previous agency and essentially do everything all over again because it wasn't done properly in the beginning. So like, I mean, luckily everything has gone well for me. But what I've certainly learned is that in this industry, for whatever reason, like there's a lot of people who just don't know what they're talking about. Essentially, like these like agencies who like, let's say it's a very simple process, very simple case, it can work. But as soon as there's anything slightly more complicated, they'll either not know how to do it properly or they'll do it wrong. So like you said, it's a very quick process, but there's a lot of sort of moving pieces that you'll need to consider. And obviously you guys will help with that and do everything properly.
And one thing to consider too is, yes, you could technically do it right. You could set up your company, get your residency, but there's just way more that you need to know about. Is your setup going to allow you to actually get banking? Is your setup going to allow you to actually sponsor these people? Is it going to allow you to do business here or there? I have some clients where their business is registered in the wrong place, totally wrong place. And now they're coming to me trying to get my help. And of course I would love to help them. However, there is no way to just simply transfer your company from one place to another. You have to shut it down and then set up a totally new company. And that would mean paying for all of those expenses again and paying for the expenses to close that first company. So it's so important to do it just right the first time. Don't, you know, go with a cheap agency or don't go with people who don't actually understand the process, because it's going to cost you more in the long run. And yeah, we've experienced that firsthand. A lot of people who went directly or went with the wrong group of people come to us saying now, oh, I can't get banking. Why? And I look at their application, I'm like, it's very clear why. It's because of this, but I can still help you. I can still help you. But of course, it's just a headache for them at the end of the day. If you get rejected from one bank, for example, you're not getting another opportunity with that bank. It's just, you're done with that one. So it's definitely an interesting line of business. And one more thing to add, actually, not only can some people just do it wrong, but we're in this space, so we go through this a lot. We help a lot of people, and a lot of people get scammed. Like straight up, just their money is taken and they'll never hear from that agency again because they're based in another country or something. You're not, where are you gonna go find them? You know, so so you got to watch out for those two things.
So you mentioned banking. Like someone might be asking themselves, and you mentioned a lot of cases of like there might be problems with this. Let's say someone works with you. Like, what is the process to open a bank account? Number one, personally, and number two, for the business. Yeah,
that's a great question. So to answer that simply, we have an expert banking team that takes care of the entire process. Of course, we're there to assist as well and guide them. However, to open a personal bank account in Dubai, it's very straightforward. We have a personal banker at Emirates NBD who will open your bank account in literally one session, so around 30 minutes. By the time you leave, you'll have all of your banking details. You'll have your account open. You'll have a credit card. You won't have the physical credit card. It will be delivered to you maybe 2-3 days later max, but you'll have everything set up. And of course, with WeoBank, you can do that digitally online. We'll guide you for that as well. It doesn't take much effort. And for business banking, we also help our clients open a bank anywhere. Of course, even for personal, anywhere we can help. So with Weo, we will assist them with the process to open their bank account there. If they want Rack Bank or Emirates NBD, Emirates Islamic, whatever bank, we can help them. Depending on the business activities, it might take a little bit more time or it can be a little bit quicker. But honestly, we have a pretty streamlined process where usually at the latest, it takes about 1 week to handle the entire process. So it's pretty straightforward. Otherwise, if you were to go and try to do this alone, it could take you, with conventional banks, it could take some months sometimes. For us personally, when we first moved to Dubai, we went directly to the bank and it was kind of like a headache. We had to go to one office and then they told us, go to this office. And we went to that office and we met up with some, honestly, I don't want to say it, but it's some sketchy dude and he kind of made it work. And 2 months later, and in between, we had to go to the bank so many different times to sign a bunch of documents because it wasn't done properly. So I don't know, just for me personally as a business person, my time is worth money. So I'm willing to get a good experience instead of going through all the hardships and headaches
Yes,
to get it
definitely
done.
something I wish I had. I remember when I was opening my first Dubai bank account, I went to the bank, waited for an hour at the line, and then I go there like, oh, do you have these and these documents?
Yeah,
no.
yeah,
So I go home, I get the documents, I come back, wait an hour again on the line, and then they're like, oh, but you don't have this document. But what do you mean? The guy didn't tell me that I needed this document yesterday. Oh, but sir, but you need it.
Yeah.
Well, you could have told me that yesterday. Go home again. Get the, This is a whole freaking process.
And then on top of that, the processing times, when you go directly and you don't actually know the bankers, know these people, it's going to be a lot longer because they don't know you. They don't care about you. They don't have a relationship with you. So it's going to take more time too. So it's the headache plus the time. And yeah, I mean, it's just not a good experience at the end of the day. So we always recommend to just do it right the first time. And like you said, you went through those issues. We went through those issues. And that's exactly why we provide this service. That's exactly why we got into this business. Because we realized that truthfully, in my opinion, humble opinion, nobody on the market provided the experience that I wanted at the time and that we wanted at the time. So we've just came into the space and are providing that kind of, I call it like a Western style service where it's just totally different. If you are living in Canada or in Europe, the type of experience you get there is totally different than what you will get here. You'll probably notice that maybe by getting on some calls with some consultants or whoever. So we're trying to bring that, I guess, approach to business setup to provide literally a one-stop shop for people to be able to set up their business without having headaches. Because I don't know how many hours of time you've spent researching.
Many.
Like if you could put a ballpark, how many hours did you put into researching on how to set up your business?
I don't know. It's like 2 or 3 months in total. I don't know, hundreds of hours probably in total. That's why I make these videos now.
Yeah, exactly. If you got on the phone with the right person that could just guide you on every single thing, the whole step of the way, it would take less than 5 hours probably to do the whole process.
Exactly.
So.
And the same for us. I spent at least, I calculated this, at least over 300 hours just to do it properly. And us, it wasn't even done properly. We still had issues. For example, you mentioned that you were not aware that you couldn't leave the country before you had your residency issued, right?
The story,
That's one thing, right? Us, we were told that we had to be here in person to start the process when that is totally false.
Nonsense.
You do not have to be here. You can start the process, register the company from abroad, and get your entry permit. Entry permit is very clear from abroad, but we were told, no, you have to be here in person. So what did we do? We flew here in person, and we could have spent 2 weeks of Airbnb money on something else. So whatever that expense was, I think we spent a lot of money back then on that Airbnb. Maybe like $5,000 worth of Airbnbs in 2 weeks. I know that's kind of luxurious, but you get the point. That money could have been saved and put towards something else instead. So
I've told this story a couple of times on the channel, but basically, so when I arrived in Dubai to complete my medical test, fingerprints, whatever I had to do, I had a flight booked out of Dubai back to London, which was where I was living at the time. But the idea was like, okay, I'm going to wait for the process to be completed, then I'm going to go back to Dubai to actually move there, right? But what I had not been told was that I can't actually leave the country before the process is completed. So I'd done my application for my visa and Emirates ID. The application wasn't completed yet. And during that time, you have to be in the country. So I was at the airport, my flight was in 2 hours, and I was at the border, and the guy was like, no, cannot go. And I'm like, what, why? And the guy doesn't speak English. And I'm like, trying to like, why can't I leave? No, go to immigration center downstairs, please. I go to the immigration center. I'm like, okay, the guy wouldn't let me leave the country. And the person at the immigration center just looks at me like, obviously they don't have any idea why either. Eventually I figure out like, okay, it's because the visa thing is in processing. But simple mistake like that now meant that I had to book another hotel, book another flights because obviously it wasn't refundable, and like buy VIP processing, which was like extra for them. Okay. So that mistake alone ended up costing me like $1,000 or something. Wow. And there's other things like if you set it up, like it might be set up perfect, fine. But then what you don't know is that, oh, you have to register for VAT, you have to register for this and that. And if you don't, like, oh, by the way, 20,000 dirham fine.
Yeah.
Things like that. They will, like, if you're not very on it, like luckily I was very on it that I didn't end up making those mistakes. But even me, I almost made these mistakes of I didn't know that I had to register for this and that. And like, how does this work? And like, Like honestly, many people probably just end up making mistakes that end up costing them way more than the additional cost of perhaps using an agency, a good agency.
And I would say like you're one of the smartest people I know. So if you almost made these mistakes, imagine
anyone
regular
can, really.
people. Let's just say regular people. Like you put so much time into this to learn it and to try to get it right. But still, there's still some things that slip through the cracks, like the residency, that if you just work with a consultant, like you said, would tell you immediately, do not leave the country. Or when you arrive at the airport, do this.
Yeah. And even after you set up your business, you still have an expert by your side. If you do choose to go with an agency like us, which is very important for stuff like VAT, corporate tax registration, which can cost tens of thousands in fines. So
so getting into a bit more like specific questions that people who comment on my videos, or people who send me questions on Instagram, there are many things that people are confused about. Like for example, there are two types of businesses, right? You can have a Freezone company, you can have a Mainland company. What would be like, what is essentially the difference between those two?
Yeah, so the key difference between a Freezone company and a Mainland company is a Mainland company is the only one that's allowed to do physical commercial business in the Mainland. So if you want to open something like a barber shop, or you want to open something like an actual physical store, you'll need a Mainland license. However, one big misconception that people have is Freezone companies can't offer services to the Mainland. That is totally incorrect. You are allowed as long as it's a professional service. So an example of that would be, let's say you have a consulting business and someone in the Mainland, let's say Burj Khalifa, wants to have your services. Well, you can provide them your consulting service even if they are in the Mainland. That's totally okay. As long as it's a professional service, it's fine. But when it's commercial, no. Now, the reason why most people register their business in a Freezone rather than a Mainland is because the cost is much lower. So the license cost, the visa costs are pretty similar. However, the difference with a Freezone company and a Mainland company is the Mainland company actually needs to have a physical office. You need to have a physical office space when a Freezone does not. Now, with your business setup in a Freezone, you will still get something like a flexi desk or a lease agreement. So technically you have one. However, it's not an actual physical office like you would need with a Mainland. Like you can actually go there in person. Of course, the Freezone one, you can technically still go, but the cost difference is massive. The compliance is also totally different. The process is also different. So with the Freezone, it's much easier. It's much cheaper. And if you have an online business or some sort of professional service, then it's totally the right fit for you.
I actually didn't know that about that you can provide services.
Oh, there you go. There you go. That's another thing. That's another thing. Yeah. So that's something. I actually had some clients. They're like, I registered a Mainland business because I thought I had to have this Mainland business. Well, there you go. Now you're paying. You can go on Google and search how much an office costs in Dubai. You're paying that much more per year. It's not a one-time cost. It's an annual rent. Because you were misinformed. You didn't know.
So another thing people are confused about is corporation tax.
Yes.
So can you tell the people, what is the deal with this 9% corporate tax in Dubai?
Absolutely, yeah. So the general idea is the 9% corporate tax is on any business profits after 102,000 US dollars. But what people don't know, a lot of people don't know, is that there's a small business tax relief where you can be exempt from the 9% corporate tax for the next 3 years if your business does less than 3 million AED in company revenue. That's revenue, not profit. So a lot of people don't know that, and it's a big benefit for the next 3 years that you can take advantage of.
Yeah. So literally, if you make less than 3 million AED, which is 816,000 USD in revenue, then it doesn't matter what your net profit is. You do not have to pay a tax whatsoever. So a lot of people, like you said, don't know this and are misinformed, and who knows, maybe they're going to end up paying this tax because you have to claim it back at the end of the year. It's not just something that happens automatically. You have to claim this small business relief. Of course, you have to have all the proper bookkeeping and accounting in place to be able to do this. But yeah, it's really good because still most people don't have businesses making more than 816,000 USD in revenue, especially if you have a professional service like you're a consultant or something. Usually your profit is very close to your revenue. So you can take advantage of that, and yeah, it's still a fantastic place to be. And even if you did have to pay that 9% tax, it's not 9% on everything. It's only on the net income above 102K. So your effective tax rate isn't that bad. Let's say you made 200K net profit and you went over the 3 million AED in revenue, then your effective tax rate is really like 4.5%. It's not really a full 9%.
And what you also can remember is that you can deduct yourself a salary, correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
What would be stopping me from just paying all the company profit to myself as a salary then?
Yeah, so there's no complete guidance on this yet since no one's filed a corporate tax yet, but essentially you have to pay a salary that's within the arm's length principle, which is a reasonable salary. So if you make 100,000 dirhams every year or every month, you can't pay yourself a salary of 100,000 dirhams monthly, right? It has to be considered reasonable, and that's something we're going to get more guidance on when the corporate tax filing comes, and you know what they tell us on what's reasonable and what's not. So,
and another important thing for people to consider about the corporation tax is that, and correct me if I'm wrong, but whether or not you fall below or above the 3 million dirham threshold for the small business relief, you still have to register for corporation tax. So you have to fill the form on the website, and then at the end of the year you claim the small business relief.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. You have to register for corporate tax, no matter if you're making $1, $2, or $10 million.
Yeah.
You have to. The reason why people might get confused is because of the VAT. That has a threshold, but corporate tax doesn't matter. You have to register for it, and if not, you might get a fine.
Yes.
So
you don't want to get fined.
also, that's how they can see that you're under the 3 million AED in
exactly.
revenue, right? You do the proper bookkeeping, you have the proper invoicing, and you show that you're at what, 2.9 or 2.8, and you fall in the category of a small business relief. So
something that people often ask as well is, can you form a company in Dubai that is 0% tax, but not live in Dubai? Let's say keep living in Canada and pay the 0% tax.
yeah, that's a big question that we get a lot on these calls with people that we speak with, which, by the way, if you guys want to learn more, you can book a call with the link down below. But you can do it. You can physically do it. However, you cannot legally reduce your taxes by doing that. Sure, your company in Dubai is, you know, low tax. However, it depends on where you live as an individual. So if you're living in Canada and your company is registered in Dubai, it's a company that is controlled, it's a foreign controlled company. So at the end of the day, that Dubai company is technically actually a Canadian company or whatever company you're from. So it doesn't make sense to do that. You're illegally avoiding taxes.
Yeah, it's a big one. And the way I like to explain it to people is that a company is in general not necessarily taxed where it's registered, it's taxed where it operates. So if you think about this in terms of analogy of a person is born in a country which, unless you're a US citizen, sorry,
Unfortunate.
sad one there.
with any other passport than the US passport, if you're born in Canada, you're not always taxed in Canada, you're taxed where you live.
Exactly.
Similarly,
Absolutely.
for companies can be born somewhere, so the company can be born, aka registered in the UAE, but if the company lives, aka the company is managed and controlled from Canada, Canada is going to tax that company just like any other Canadian company, which just leads to the problem of, okay, you could, like you said, form a company in Dubai, but then it's just kind of pointless, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. At the end of the day, where you live is where you're taxed, or where you're considered a resident is where you're taxed.
Yeah,
So
and I
that's what
mean,
gotta
if you
think
have a
about.
bigger company, then it's where your company is managed. Of course, if you're the sole shareholder of this company, then 100% your company will be taxed where you live or where you have tax residency. But I mean, if the company is bigger and you're just a small fish, a part of a big thing, it could be a different story.
Exactly.
So that's something to keep in mind. And of course, if you guys want to learn more, just contact us. But yeah, unfortunately, a lot of people are illegally avoiding taxes without knowing it. And it's a sour pill to chew once you tell them, yeah, you're tax evading, by the way. And then
these Western governments, like, they have figured out these loopholes. They haven't just left the loophole like this in the tax system, because otherwise everyone would just go and set up a company in freaking Cayman Islands.
Yeah.
And no one would ever register a company in Canada if you could just use that to avoid tax. Unfortunately, it does not work that way.
Exactly.
Be aware of that. We talked about being resident in Dubai for your personally and for your company. If we think like specifically, how long does someone need to spend in the UAE to be considered tax resident in the UAE?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's two types of tax residencies that you can get in Dubai. One is a domestic tax residency. If you're physically present in the UAE for 90 days and you have a company in the UAE, you can get a domestic tax residency certificate, which is an official document showing that you're a tax resident for domestic purposes. Then if you're in the UAE for 6 months of the year, you can get an international tax residency certificate. So if you're in the UAE for 6 months of the year, 183 days, and you have a company, you can get that international tax residency certificate, and that's used for double tax agreement purposes. Say Canada or another country wants to dock you as a resident or a tax resident. You have an official document that plays on the treaty between the UAE and Canada that shows you're a tax resident of the UAE for being here for 6 months of the year.
But you know, 3 months is the minimum. Like you said, you can get the double tax treaty certificate. However, you just need the 3 months. If you are going to get that 3 month though, it's really important to not spend too much time in any other country, because at that point, the 6 month one would be much better for you. Because at the end of the day, you need to analyze it like the government is looking at you. Is this person really living in Dubai, or are they trying to avoid taxes? If you're living 3 months in Dubai and then you go and live 5 months in Finland, you know, you're under the 6 month threshold. Well, you've been in Finland more time than the UAE, so why shouldn't you pay taxes in Finland? And I mean, that general rule applies for everything. So if you do want to spend 3 months here, just watch out for where you spend your time for the rest of the year. So that's something to keep in mind.
And that's also something people don't think about. They just ask me like, okay, what do I need to do to be tax resident in Dubai? 3 months. I'm just going to spend 3 months and then I'm going to spend the rest of the 9 years in the UK. Well, unfortunately, often in these cases, it's more important to think about where you're, to make sure that you're non-resident in your origin country than it is to be resident in like wherever you are. Like
it all starts with your home country or where you were previously living, and then you look at Dubai and how to establish your tax here. So it's good to have a holistic approach to it.
Yeah, and we've spoken to so many different tax consultants, so we have a lot of knowledge on this. We're not just a business setup company. At the end of the day, if your true goal is to reduce your taxes, then do it legally, do it properly. We can give you basic advice on how to do this. However, we always recommend at the end of the day that you are doing it properly and having the actual plan to execute on properly. So we can put you in touch with tax experts from your country, wherever you're from. I know there's a lot of tax experts, but we have spoken to a lot of them, and we've built like a really good list of proper people at reasonable prices.
So talking about prices and money, people will often ask, how much should you be making before you move to Dubai?
That's a great question.
Such a variable question.
That's a great question. So at the beginning of the podcast, I mentioned I would still move here even if I had no tax benefits. So for me, I would still move here if I was making, let's say, 50K per year. I would still move here as an entrepreneur because I know that I would make more money. However, from a tax perspective, if you were to literally look at it as a business decision, your only goal is to move here for taxes, then it should equal how much you have to pay per year to live here, basically, or pay additionally, because of course you have to pay to live in any other country. Your home country, you still have to pay. But I would say that if you're making around $70,000 per year, you're definitely at the range where it at least breaks even, you know, based on your tax savings.
That's usually what I tell people as well. Like, you can live here on pretty low income if you want to. There's many areas, like what I like about Dubai is you can almost like curate your reality. You can live very cheaply if you want to, or you can go all the way to the luxury end if you want to. And it's sort of great that you can start off at the lower level and then work up to the upper levels. You're going to be working up to higher levels of wealth so much faster because you're not paying taxes on your income. But often the level where it starts to make sense is around $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 a month. Especially if you're pushing above 10, it starts to make a lot of sense. Below those levels, let's say you're making $2,000, $3,000, the benefits, the tax benefits, as much as we talked about it, they're not that great anymore. In the West, you still get something, right? The benefits that you're losing perhaps like are not worth it. But above that point, you can easily, because people used to say like, oh, I will lose free healthcare, which obviously not free anyway. But what you need to consider is that with your tax savings, you can easily buy back whatever you lose. Like healthcare here is not that expensive.
No, not at all.
It's not.
Infrastructure is amazing. It's better than it is in Europe or wherever. Like whatever you think you're losing, you can get that back and a lot more with the tax savings. And above around that level is where that really starts to add up very quickly.
Yeah, because I mean, like if, for example, you're making 200K in any country, you're basically, I don't know, of course I can't say this for every country, but you're basically getting taxed, let's say $70,000 from that $200,000. So that's a lot of money that you could put towards something else.
And you have to think about, like, if you're paying 40-50% tax, you're literally working for half the year just to pay the government.
You have a secret business partner.
Literally.
Yeah, they own more than you in some cases. Like you said, the majority shareholder of your business, they're getting paid everything and they don't do anything really, for being honest.
So can you quickly touch on the process of moving to other Emirates? Let's say someone wants to move to Abu Dhabi instead of Dubai. Is the process the same or is there a difference?
Yeah, it's relatively the same thing. Of course, each government body has little different procedures, but it's basically the same thing. So Abu Dhabi, or if you wanted to move to Sharjah, very similar process. They are, you know, basically the same thing. So you shouldn't expect anything different. But actually something to mention is based on these other Emirates. So I have some clients, they're like, hey, I want to live in Rakaz. Do I have to, not Rakaz, in Ras Al Khaimah, do I have to register my business in Rakaz? No, you don't. You can register your business in Dubai and live in another Emirate. So you aren't required to live in Dubai and have your business registered in Dubai. You could have your business registered in another Emirate, which I don't really recommend. To be honest, Dubai is the best for registering your Freezone company, but it's not required to live where you work or where your business is registered.
Yeah.
Amazing. All right, so obviously a lot of people will be wanting to move here, not alone, but with their significant other. So something that people have been asking me is, can you move here with your significant other if you are not married?
Yeah, absolutely. Dubai is very, very progressive. A lot of clients think that, you know, you can't move with your significant other if you're not married. That's not the case. It feels like you're in the West. Dubai feels like you're in the West. Personally, being from Canada, you can move in with your significant other. There's no problems. You don't have to be married.
To me, when I describe it to people, Dubai is like the West without all the problems of the West.
Totally.
Yes.
Except with amazing weather and 0% tax.
Yes.
Totally. You should do a walkthrough video of walking through Dubai to show people what it really looks like, because you don't have to dress in a certain way. You can dress however you want. You can go to the club. You can even drink in Dubai. If you're not Muslim, you can even eat pork if you wanted to. Like, all of these things are available here, but the West just doesn't know that, because most people who have these, you know, thoughts haven't been here before, so they haven't experienced it. So it's really basically just like you said, like the West, but without the problems. And better weather and less taxes.
And without the crime, all these kind of things.
Literally.
And there's things you want to think about, like, it's not really okay to be drunk in public. You don't want to be rowdy. You don't want to be getting into fights. But like, I don't know about you, but like, I'm all for that. Like,
for sure.
When
keeps the society safe.
I remember when I went back to London in the summer, my flight landed on Saturday night. I went to central London on the tube. I got out of the tube, and what I see around me, people throwing up, people coming home from party, people like screaming, God, I was like, oh, it's bringing me back to Dubai, bring me back to civilization. What is this?
It's a free for all. Honestly, I was parked downtown in Canada, and I had people jumping on my car and fighting. I'm just parked. Leave me alone.
You can't mind your own business.
I don't even know why they jumped on my car. Like, it's just a movie. They're jumping on my car to fight. It was crazy, but
so what I like about Dubai is that it's free, but everyone respects each other. Like, you're supposed to be respectful.
Totally.
But as long as you're respectful to everyone, you're respectful to all the other culture, which you see so many of here. Like, everyone just minds their own business. You can do whatever you want, but like, you don't have to deal with the crime, the issues, all these things.
Definitely.
That's really what I like about it.
And honestly, I've even seen some sort of rowdiness here, and it's not like you're going to go straight to jail, okay? It's not that strict. However, if you're genuinely a bad person, eventually it will catch up to you. But most people aren't, especially, you know, entrepreneurs, business owners, they don't really try to get into that kind of life. So you can come here and feel safe. Your kids are going to be safe. Your family's going to be safe. And it's just going to be a good experience overall to live here.
And what you need to think about is the kinds of people who are moving to Dubai. Like, anyone who's here that has moved from abroad has actively made the decision to come here to better their lives, to grow themselves, to grow their businesses. These are not the kinds of people who are going to be committing crimes anyway. These are not the kinds of people who are going to be rowdy, things like this. You're surrounded by people who are growth minded, who want to build their lives, build their businesses. And it's just a great environment to be in.
It's always successful people moving to Dubai. It's never the bottom tier people. Of course, there could be some, but at the end of the day, that's why I think even if there was no benefit in taxes, I would still move here, because you're just networking with fantastic people. And if you're raising a family here, or if you plan on raising a family here, your kids are going to be around really good people, really good families. And it's just like it's a life hack. It's just a boost. We've helped a lot of families relocate here, not just individuals, and they love it here. We haven't had one client that regrets moving here. They are all so happy here. Like, it's just a place where you come to Dubai on vacation, or you come to Dubai short term and you don't leave. I didn't even want to be here this long this year. My plan was to be here for 3 months, but I can't leave. I love it so much, I just can't leave.
Yeah, look, like, obviously it's not going to be right for everyone. People will say, oh, it doesn't have nature, it doesn't have something. Like, sure, I'm not saying Dubai is the right for everyone, but for a lot of people, it just makes a lot of sense. Lifestyle's great, weather's great, everything. Because they're actually growing the country in the right direction, which is like such a breath of fresh air coming from freaking UK, where everything's just going down. They're inviting the right people here, the people at the top who are going to grow the country, grow the economy. Whereas the problem with places like the UK, like Europe, Canada, they're inviting people to the bottom, but then they're pushing out the people from the top. So all the people who are actually paying the taxes are just leaving because of the attitudes, because of the crazy taxes, all these problems. And then there's people coming to the bottom, not really contributing to the system. Like, obviously, maybe they build up to it, but it's not hard to see that this math can't work for a very long time when all the taxpayers are just leaving and non-taxpayers are coming in. Dubai is literally the opposite, where you have the right people coming in and like being incentivized to grow, to build, which is what every society should be.
They've mastered a society here, basically. So it's the best place you can be, in my opinion.
It's ran like a business, and it's not ran like something else. And actually, one question I had for you, Thomas, is obviously you moved here, but do you wish you moved here sooner, or do you think you moved here at the right time?
I moved here as soon as I left my 9-to-5 job. So as soon as I was free to move, I moved. But I still wish I had moved sooner. I wish I had, because obviously it's a difficult decision to make, to leave your full-time job to go do business full-time. So as soon as I moved here, as soon as I went all in on my business, the business just started skyrocketing. It started growing so much.
Exactly.
When I had all the attention in this one thing, and I came to this place, because another thing about Dubai that is so underrated, seeing the sun every single day, it just makes you happier. Seeing the city, the skyline, all these people around you, it just motivates you to keep going. It motivates you to, and it pushes you to keep going. And you just feel great every single day when you can open the curtains and see the sunshine and everything like that. So definitely, but I'm happy that I moved when I moved.
And another thing to mention is, the weather here is great, but like, we're so close to so many different cool places that you're going on a quick little vacation soon, right? So maybe we'll get some content for that shortly on the channel. We'll watch that. But you're a quick flight from everywhere, really. Like, you're in the middle of the world, basically. So if you want to fly back to your home country from Europe, it's not a long flight. You can go back and visit your family.
And what a lot of people do is, because the summer, admittedly, like we mentioned before, it does get very hot. But that's not a problem if you're location independent. Have Dubai as your main base, and this is what I do. This is what a lot of people I know, most of the people I know here do. Have Dubai as your main base, and then over the summer you can travel. You can go to Asia, you can go Europe, you can go your home country, whatever you want to do. And again, as long as you're keeping in mind the things we discussed about tax residency, not spending too long in any other given country during the year, you can still have Dubai as your only tax residency. Keep those tax benefits and like see the world around the summer. And to me, that's an optimal lifestyle. Maybe it doesn't work for everyone. It really works for me and for a lot of people. And there's also another great thing about Dubai is that you're so close to everywhere. Right in the middle between Asia, Europe, which is where a lot of people travel to. It's pretty great.
Yeah, and I mean, that's what most of our clients do. They end up traveling a lot. Of course, we have some that just stay here all year, but you're close to everywhere, so why not just go and experience it? You're getting paid to travel literally with all the tax savings. Take that money, you'll save even more money when you go to places like Thailand or Indonesia. So, you know, that's why a lot of people are living the lifestyle, laptop lifestyle. Of course, you don't have to, but you can. You have the flexibility to. You're not forced to be here the entire year. So that's another really good thing, which some countries, to gain tax residency, you have to be there for a lot longer, and the requirements are a lot different. So here it's very lenient. It used to be 6 months. I'm not sure if you know this, but it used to be 6 months, but they reduced it down to 3 months. So they're trying to make it easier for business people, entrepreneurs to move here. And yeah, super happy about that personally.
So I think that brings us to the close. Like we mentioned before, if you want to work with these guys, there will be a link down below to a free consultation, which, by the way, most consultancies would charge for this first call. They don't charge. It's a free 45-minute consultation. You can just book it. They will walk you through the process, everything you need to consider, and you can just get all of that value. And then at the end of it, if you want to work with them, you can. So that will be linked down below. Is there anything else you guys wanted to say before we end?
Yeah.
Thank you for having us. I mean, it was a great experience. And
yeah,
we look forward to helping many people move to Dubai.
Amazing.
Yeah, looking forward to seeing you guys on the call. It's free. We'll give you so much information, so much value. People literally charge thousands of dollars for these calls. So,
and by the way, I can personally, genuinely vouch that these guys know what they're talking about. I mean, we work together very, very closely. Whenever I need advice, I ask one of them on WhatsApp. Within 2 minutes, they respond. And that's how they are with all of their clients. Like, they definitely, like, I can vouch that they know what they're talking about. You're in good hands if you use GenZone's services.
Awesome. Yeah, and thank you for having us on the channel. And we're looking forward to the rest of your content, and update us on your vacation.
With that said, if you want to see another video about moving to Dubai, I actually made a full guide about running a business here in Dubai, where we go into some of the details that we're talking about here. That video will be linked right here, so click that video right now if you want to watch that. With that, I will see you in the next one.